Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Block, Executive Director with Catholic Charities, and I'm here with Emily McCullough. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist in our Fort Dodge office. Hi, Emily. How are you?
Hello, Amy. I'm good, thanks.
Great. Today, we thought we would discuss a topic that we get a lot of questions about when it comes to kids, and that has to do with privacy, social media, and with summer being here, we know kids oftentimes are on social media a lot more during this time. So, Emily, one of the questions I know that we get a lot from parents
Mhm.
is should I be looking at my child's social media accounts? Should I be looking at my child's phone? And if so, what does that look like? So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. There's a lot of things that our children, as they go through their developmental stages, that they're not quite ready for yet. Like we're gonna um, bathe our preschoolers because they can't do that themselves yet. We're
Right.
gonna hold our grade schoolers accountable for their music lesson time because they can't do that yet. They don't have the organizational skills to take care of that yet for themselves. And access to the internet, which is what most kids have now in their back pocket, is a big responsibility and something that parents need to guide their children in, teach them how to be safe on the internet, what kinds of things maybe are not okay for them to do, give them some boundaries, and check up on them because even if the kid is well intentioned, you know, other people can send them things or they can have um, accidentally gone somewhere that is not safe for them. So, short answer is yes, definitely. Parents
Right.
should be
Yes, yes.
monitoring their kids' cell phone, like texts, social media, conversations on there,
Okay.
pictures they've taken, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. So what about, I think oftentimes what we hear from parents is, I trust my child. They're a good kid. So
Yeah,
what is your response to that when you hear that from parents?
yeah. Our kids are good kids, and most of them want to abide by what parents, loving boundaries that parents set for them. There are a lot of temptations out there, and so even good kids can make mistakes, go somewhere they shouldn't, or get curious, or have a friend convince them to look up something they ought not to look up. Um, and other people can contact our kids. Other people can seek them out and expose them to things we don't want them exposed to. So it's not just my kid is good and responsible and I trust them, but it's the rest of the world. Do you trust them?
Right, right.
Having unlimited access is a pretty scary thing, really.
Right. I know one of the things I like to talk to parents about too, and I think especially as kids get older and, part of their job as, especially as they get into teen years, is part of their job is pushing those boundaries and pushing their
Yeah,
limits. And, their brains are still developing. So it's not even about them being good kids or not. It's their brains are not
absolutely.
developed enough to help them make good decisions. Um,
Yeah,
so it's important, I think, for us often to be in there to help them with those things, as you said, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
About the age of 25 or mid 20s is what
Wow.
researchers are saying is when the prefrontal cortex, which is that part of our brain that has to do with reasoning and good decision making, like
Mhm.
the pros and cons and those types of things, that is under construction until mid 20s.
Wow.
And I bet if we all think back to our own teenage years and even young 20s, we can think of some pretty bad decisions that we made, some pretty
Right.
big risks that we took because just developmentally, brain wise, we weren't capable of fully, you know, making a good decision like an adult is beyond
Right.
the mid 20s.
Right.
Not that we're faulting our kids, we're just recognizing what stage they're at and how much help they need.
Right. There's a couple of stats, Emily, you were sharing with me right before we started that I think would be helpful
Yeah.
for parents to know, just to put some context around how exposed our kids are to some of the things on the internet. Would you mind sharing some of those?
Yeah, well, as we talk about inappropriate things online, pornography comes to mind, right? It's out there. Companies are even targeting children, unfortunately. A quarter of children by the age they're 12 will have seen pornography, whether it their phone, somebody showed them, or it popped up, or they got curious and searched it themselves after hearing about it from someone else, which anybody's susceptible to that temptation, you know. And then there's sexting, which is all too common nowadays, with most every kid having access to a camera in their pocket and a way to send that picture instantly. 20% about of teenagers, so like 12 to 17 were the stats I looked at, years old, are sending sexually inappropriate pictures. And about 39% are sending sexually inappropriate messages. And even more are receiving stuff like that, whether they, you know, intended to receive it or not. About 48% receive sexual messages. And then of those who receive them, you know, we think maybe that, well, it's a boyfriend or girlfriend and they'll keep it or they'll delete it and it'll be safe and fine and nobody else will ever see. About 12% of people or kids who are receiving those kinds of messages, pictures or texts, are sending them on, sharing them with their friends, if not just turning their phone around and saying, hey, look at this.
Wow.
So the internet is not private. You know, one of the things I hear parents saying is that I want my child to have privacy. I respect them, want to honor their privacy. Well, that's good in many ways, but the internet is not a private place itself. And so if what they put out there, anybody else in the world could see, wouldn't you want to see what everybody in the world is seeing about your child?
Right.
So,
right. So I really hear you saying, you know, it's important to have a presence in a role in that. And it's really not about not giving your child privacy, but really having boundaries around that. And, you know, I think the other thing that you and I have had conversations about is, you know, having that conversation with your child and letting them know and understand what it's about. It's not that we don't trust our kids, we don't think they're good kids. It's about parenting and understanding, you know, kind of where their brains are at, and that we love them, and want to make sure that they're staying safe. So yeah,
I think that conversation is the main piece that should be happening, and I think children can be they can be understanding to an extent. I mean, they understand why we won't let them drive before they're able to drive, you know, and why we don't expect them to make all their own orthodontist appointments and stuff like that. We don't, you know, we want them to do things at the right stage and guide them and teach them rather than just open them up to the world and let them loose. So having that conversation is good, and there can be understanding there. And then if a parent wanted to, additionally, they could get some sort of parental controls, like apps that allow a parent to control screen time, control content, and times of day that their child uses their phone. Like, do they really need it during the sleeping hours? Probably not.
right.
They might be on it when we're asleep.
Right.
It's not healthy for them.
Yes.
So there's ways that parents can get a program or an app to help you monitor things like that if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks, Emily. That's really good information. And I would just say to anyone who might be listening, if you have questions or if you have concerns about your child and want to talk to any of our therapists, including Emily, you can find information on our website, which is cathchar.com, CATHCHAR.com, and we'd be happy to answer any of those for you. Otherwise, thanks, Emily. Really appreciate it again.
Thank you.
And hope you all have a great day.